All right. Welcome to Fusion Pop. Popcorn Pop, right? All right. This is Janine, aka DJ Eternal Eyes. And of course, we also have Matt Mercer with us.
Hello.
Hello. He's he's done a lot of things: writing, producing, directing, and acting, right?
Yeah, and editing, whatever it takes to get the thing done, I'll do it.
Yeah. And of course, Matt Mercer and I know each other from high school.
Yeah, crazy.
Yes, it's been a long time. I was just commenting before we started how he got this whole beard and mustache thing going on now.
Yeah.
I'm used to him being like shaven.
Yeah. I didn't have this in high school. I have the quarantine beard going. It was a lot longer, as I was saying to you before the show. I was in like a Walt Whitman stage level beard. I mean, it must have been 4 or 5 inches long, and then it just gets in everything when you're sipping coffee or eating food, and it's just a mess. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna make things easier on myself and clean up a little bit.
That's kind of like when your hair's too long for girls. It's like, man, get out of my face.
Right. And I have not cut my hair in a while, so that's why I've been wearing hats a lot more often, because it just keeps it at bay, so it's not.
Does it get curly?
Does it get curly? I have very straight hair. I have some cowlick stuff, but you can see how long it is kind of back here.
Oh yeah,
It's sticking out, but it's it's mostly just bone straight. My hair.
Well, as we were saying, we know each other from high school. He was always like the lead in theater, so I knew he was gonna do something beyond. And we also did a independent movie in high school that I was just an extra in, that he was the lead. Yeah.
Right.
And I did contact the girl, the woman who made it, and haven't heard anything for her in years. So I'm like, oh well, I won't see it.
That's right. I forgot about that, and I'm trying to remember the name of it now. But it was like not a murder mystery. It was a mystery.
Yeah,
thing, right? Yeah.
You guys were. It was supposed to be like a career. You take on a career in class and say how it is, and you thought, oh, we'll be detectives and we'll help people with their cats or something, finding their cats. And then it ended up a real mystery happened in school.
Yeah. It was like a YA mystery sort of deal. And I think I think I played the bad guy in it. I'm trying to remember now.
Hold on. I know it's under your info.
Okay. Yeah, I definitely remember images from it, and it was at that time when everyone was shooting on these standard def video cameras, but you could record them at
before things went
film. Yeah, right before you could get 4K footage in tiny little devices, and it was standard def and 24 frames, and so you could shoot it, the same frame rate as film, but it looked, like video, like bad video. It was fun though. That was one of my first experiences.
Lennon.
Yeah, that's
Mark.
It.
Yeah,
it was Mark. I was
too bad I can't find it to at least watch it.
I know. Yeah,
I have a little scene in it, just a small one, but it's like, this is what I looked like in high school.
Right. Yeah.
This is what we did, which was fun after school.
Yeah, that's right. We were doing it after class and on weekends. And I want to say, I was like 16 or 17, I think. And yeah, it was fun. That was my first experience in front of a camera ever. And having just done all those, stage plays and stuff.
Yeah.
In high school, I had no idea what to do in front of a camera. So everything was huge. Everyone was huge in it. I did play the bad guy. And I'm remembering now, and I think I had a scene at the end where I come barging into a house and attack my girlfriend, and I'm like,
Yeah,
"What?
you're like,
What are you doing with that guy?" It was just massively huge
like an
performance.
abusive boyfriend or something. I don't
Yeah,
remember.
something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. Whatever I was doing wasn't good.
Yeah, it was just fun to do because I was like, oh, cool, I'm an extra in something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was always neat. I mean, it just seemed like the coolest thing in the world at that age to be on a set of any kind, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I think the other thing I remember doing in high school, the other thing I got right after that, and before I went to college, they were shooting The Rage, Carrie 2 in Charlotte, the sequel to The Rage.
Oh,
Or
wow.
the sequel to Carrie, the sequel to Carrie. And I got cast at first just as a background performer.
Oh, wow.
And then I ended up photo doubling a little bit in the climax of the film, the character Jason London played in the movie. And they were shooting at the convention center, and it was this huge, like a huge effects sequence that one of the special effects guys from Titanic was working on. There were big pyro effects, and this house was shaking and falling apart.
Oh, jeez.
And it was really cool to see. And things were like all that stuff was really happening in camera on the set. And that was my first like big, sort of, I guess, studio set that I'd ever seen. And it was kind of overwhelming. It was really neat. And then years later, like a couple of years ago, I did this killer shark movie and called Damn Sharks that ended up airing on Sci-Fi.
That actually, shark movies, but I think Sharknado is hilarious. I was like, Damn Shark sounds like a Sharknado type of thing. I think it'll be okay.
Yeah, it's very much in that vein. But the Jason London played my boss in it, and I went up to him like on the second day, and I was like, I'm sure you don't remember this at all, or remember me, but I was your photo double on Carrie 2 for just a couple of days in the climax, and he was like, "Oh, cool, all right." He had no recollection at all.
They probably see so many faces and it blurs together.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have expected him to remember that, but I just thought it was weird that like 20 years later, more than that, I was, doing scenes with him in this ridiculous killer shark movie where he played my jerk boss.
It's like it came around.
Yeah, it was a big.
It happened circle. For a reason.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I was saying before too, when we came on, I always knew you would become something because you were always the lead in our plays and stuff. Like the Music Man?
That's right.
Yeah. Some other one, and the Music Man. I was the curtain girl.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
He's doing the curtain. Totally. Hey, got to make sure I did it right.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Though. Yeah, that was.
Yeah, and it felt like a big, like we had like great sets on that.
Oh yeah,
the musical theater stuff that happened at Providence was, excuse me, was very well done. Like the sets were great, and they were all very well coordinated. And I remember just being terrified going into that because I'd never done a musical, and there were a couple of numbers in that I had to do. I mean, if I hadn't been a dumb high school student, I probably would have been so terrified I wouldn't have been able to do it. But there was like these huge dance numbers and that whole oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the song now, but the one that's like all rhythm. I bought the original soundtrack or the original cast recording and just listened to Robert Preston, the guy who originally played the role, over and over again, doing it just to memorize it because it was so hard to do. But yeah, that was terrifying doing that show, but fun.
Yeah, gosh, now I can't remember the teacher's name. He was amazing. He always did great stuff, and he's not there anymore now. He retired, if I recall.
Yeah. I remember what he looked. Yeah, I remember him, and I hate that I can't remember his name.
I know. What's that? Same here. I thought it began with an E. Like
it might have. Yeah, I'm trying to think of his name. Oh, that's horrible. I can picture him very easily. He had a beard.
Yeah, and he did a lot of stuff. Like I remember when he showed us a movie he was in. It was kind of like dark.
Yeah. 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 I can't remember his name, but I think the movie was something County Line. County.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I can't remember anything apparently.
Yeah. I feel like that too sometimes. I'm like, I know his name.
Yeah.
Not Eugene.
No. Which,
He'll
yeah.
come to me one day.
His first name was Eugene. That's right.
Yeah, Eugene something. I can't believe I remember the first name.
No, you got it. You got his first name. That's funny.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do remember the other drama teacher that came in after him, which her name was Paula Dean.
Yeah,
I
she
thought
was the one that helped with the movie, the independent film at first, if I recall.
She did. That's right.
She came in to be the second theater teacher, and then after a while, he went off and she stayed. And yeah, it's been forever.
Yeah, I remember doing another play. I'm not going to think of the name of that play, but it was a farce where there were a bunch of like pratfalls and comedic bits that we had to get the timing down just right. And she would come in, Mrs. Dean would come in with these 2 blocks of wood, and while we were rehearsing, she would just keep knocking them together like a metronome to make sure we were staying on the beat and getting all the pranks right and stuff.
I'm trying to see if I could see his name on anything, but it's like been so long, it's probably like lost somewhere.
Yeah.
Because there's like a list of high school theater teachers.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure he's on there somewhere.
Yeah, he probably is. But yeah, but as I was saying before, I knew for a fact you were getting out there and acting and doing all that stuff, because all of a sudden, one day I was just scrolling to see what was on TV, and I came across Madison County, and I kind of paused, and I was like, huh, what's this? And then I was like, that guy looks familiar. Who is he? I know him. And then I was like, is that him? And I was thinking in my head, I know that's him. That's him. Is that Matt? And then I had to look it up, and I'm like, oh, it's Matt.
Yeah.
It's Matt.
Oh yeah. Good old Madison County. Yeah, that's hilarious. That was the first time that was one of the first horror movies I got to do, which I've been a fan of horror for a long time, and I pursued that audition, and I ended up getting it, and that movie, for such a small, low budgeted production, ended up doing pretty well. It, played some festivals and sold to Image Entertainment. And then I ended up, I can't remember where it was airing. It was on, I know it was on probably Showtime for a while, but yeah. That's cool. That's hilarious. That was, you just saw me pop up in that with a baseball bat through my head.
Yeah, I was just like, oh, I like this
spoiler alert. Yeah. I tend to not fare well. What's that?
Had a guy running after everyone. I was like, oh my goodness.
Seriously? Yeah. It was like the kind of movie I, growing up, had always wanted to be in, and then finally got to be, and it sort of set a course for the next 10 years for me. I've died so much in film, so many times in films. Every once in a while I get to live, but I'd always wanted to be in a slasher film, and kind of the first horror feature I got. Kill and get killed. It's fun to die, but whether killed or not, I thought it was fun to be in a slasher film with a dude wearing a pig's head for a mask chasing me around.
That was definitely different. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But I had fun watching it. I was like, I'm gonna watch to the end now, because I got hooked into it. And I'm not big on horror myself. I'm more of a supernatural thrillers, suspense.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
But there's some horrors I could get into, as long as this is not just bloody gore and there's a storyline.
Sure. Yeah.
Because lately I've noticed some of them have just been bloody gore, and then you're just watching going, oh, change. I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. I like all kinds of horror, but I do prefer suspenseful horror. I don't mind gore if it's used the right way. I think everything has got to help amplify or help tell the story, even if it's as simple as a setup that leads to a great gore moment or something like that. Like I'm not beneath or opposed to a good Friday the 13th movie or whatever. I kind of like it all.
Those type of, well, I still won't do Friday the 13th, but one of the Jason movies, the one with the girl that was psychic and fought back, I liked that because I was like, finally somebody's fighting back.
Yeah, that's part 7, The New Blood. That's
but usually I would not have watched it, but sometimes if it looks good and if they do it well, I'll be like, okay, I'm in. I could do that.
Yeah, and she was a good nemesis for Jason. And also, I think that movie, if we're going to get into that one, it's not my favorite of the series. It's probably not even in the middle of the pack, but I like the makeup in it. The guy who did the makeup, John Carl Buechler, I think created the coolest looking Jason for that movie because he was like very zombified, and you could see like his spine through his shirt, and there are all these little details.
Well, he was dead, so that makes more sense.
Yeah, at that point, right. Yeah, at that point, Jason's very dead. He's been resurrected from the grave, his watery grave. And so there's a lot of cool, I think the director, John Carl Buechler, who was also a really great makeup artist, had watched all the movies and he tried to show all of the damage from the whole series that Jason had taken to his body through the whole series and put them all into the Jason of that movie. So that was that's the coolest thing about that movie. And then I think the Tina character, the telekinetic battle, fighting him with her telekinetic powers is pretty cool.
Yeah, that one I liked.
Yeah,
I can't find him. Eugene something. I give up.
Yeah, we'll think of it as soon as this show is over. You'll think of it. We'll think of it.
I know. It's like, but I know. I'm 40 years old now. My brain's not working like it used to.
Yeah. Mine either. I'm right with you on that. My brain is very often.
You have to write stuff down and have a checklist, right?
Yeah. I can't. It's so weird how the brain works. I mean, it's like sometimes I can recollect the most obscure, weird detail from childhood, and then other times it's always when you are trying to think of something really hard, like when like his name, when you're really trying to think of it, that's when you can't think of the thing you want to think of when you're trying too
hard. Now, as we were saying, you do a lot of horror.
A lot of horror.
Horror. But I was also thinking one of the movies that you told me about that I got, because I do like the movies that are like sci-fi too. I love sci-fi, fantasy, all that. Did Airplanes versus Volcanoes with Dean Cain.
That's true.
And I own that movie, and I love it. It's great.
Thanks.
Yeah, your character was awesome, and I loved how you were able to interact with Dean Cain's character too, and everything. I just felt like it was a good connection overall. But I enjoyed that movie.
Yeah, so. I did too. That one was actually a lot of fun, and I really like. So the guys who directed that, they're brothers, John and James Kondelik, and they did a few movies for this company called The Asylum. Actually, I've done, I think, 3 or 4 roles in 3 or 4 different features with them. And I think by far the most fun one was that one, was Airplane versus Volcano, because everyone going in, knowing what the title was and knowing what the plot was, it was right at that moment when Sci-Fi Channel was making, there were basically these 2 different companies making movies for the Sci-Fi Channel, The Asylum and Cinetel. And Sci-Fi would pick up most of them and air them, and they were just making movies with, post Sharknado, the most absurd ideas and titles you can imagine, because it was almost like they were saying, instead of letting something be unintentionally campy, let's just be so over the top campy and ridiculous.
That's the best one.
It will just have exactly. We'll just have a lot of fun doing this. Mm-hmm. And I remember the title actually it was originally not Airplane versus Volcano. It was originally Flight of Fire. And I think they decided that was just too serious.
Also, I don't know if that it kind of makes sense, but I like Airplane versus Volcano better.
I do too. And I think it was especially funny following all those movies like Mega Python versus Gatoroid, all those weird creature matchups they were doing for sci-fi. And so they would, Airplane versus Volcano was almost like a satire or a comment on even like those kinds of movies, which were already parodies kind of. But the fun thing about that movie was we were just on one set. Like we had to get creative in one single location, this airplane set, which they had like,
right.
What's that?
Is it a lot of green screen?
There was a little bit, but not much. A lot of it was just lighting effects. I mean, all the stuff that's on the outside of the plane was obviously all CG, and like because that didn't exist, obviously. But anything on the inside of the plane, instead of green screen or blue screen through the windows, it was a lot of just like colored gels and light to look like red and orange colors to make it look like fire out there. And, otherwise it was just anytime I was in the cockpit with Dean or whoever I was in there with, most of the time I was with Dean, we were just, looking at a bunch of crew members on the soundstage through the windows and going like, like looking around at nothing. But I think that movie, when you go in knowing what it is, you can just have a lot of fun with it. But and the right way to play that kind of movie is just to take it very seriously, because it's much more funny when you do that.
Yeah.
And that was fun. And working, got to work with Dean, got to work with I didn't really Robin Givens was in it, but I didn't really get to work with her because she wasn't on the same set, and I never got to actually meet her, but we were talking to each other through the headset. And then Tamara Goodwin, who is a good friend of mine, she played the stewardess or flight attendant on the flight. And then who else was in that? I mean, just so many great people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a blast. I'm glad you liked that movie. And for once I didn't die. I got to do some action stuff and didn't die, so it was fun.
Yeah, it's funny because my husband's the one that sometimes, he doesn't always do it, but he'll sometimes like break it down. Well, that can't be, or he'll bring Star Trek into it. He'll be like, if we had the USS Enterprise, that wouldn't have happened. It would have been taken care of. I'm like, this is not Star Trek universe.
Oh yeah, no. If that airplane had shields,
those
lava balls wouldn't have been knocking off those engines.
Yeah. And it would not be an awesome movie like this.
Right. The craziest day on that shoot, and I'm sorry to keep talking about it, but the craziest day on that, the craziest day on that shoot was the scene where I think a lava ball hits the top of the plane and the whole roof gets torn off.
Oh yeah.
And like a bunch of people who aren't strapped into their seats get sucked out. And now that was a green screen. There was a big green screen canopy over the top of the plane. And so there was not really a ceiling that got ripped off. That the ceiling was added afterward in post-production and then ripped off with CG. But all of the actors who were getting sucked out, that was real. They put people on wires. They had all these stunt people, and I'd never seen stunts like this before. They put these people in harnesses and on wires, and they would go action. And when they would call action, this person would just get jerked out of the plane like really fast and like hit the wall and bounce around. I was like, this is great. And they would have these huge wind fans going while doing it. And I thought that was crazy. I'd never seen people do stuff like that.
Yeah, I would have been reacting. I would be like, oh. Yeah,
I was so worried about. I mean, people they were so
later with all that jerking.
Well, I asked them, and that's what I was gonna say. I asked them. They were like, no, it's just part of the job. And I mean, when they would be banging into the walls, and like one of them got pulled out and sort of whacked their side on the side of the roof that was the ceiling that was still there. And I was like, are you okay? I remember asking this guy, I was like, are you okay? And he was like, oh yeah, I aimed for that spot. It's like, oh man.
You can aim?
Yeah.
After being banged, you would be like, so, because even if you know it's coming, it's still that surprise moment and the momentum you get jerked with.
Yeah. You don't, I mean, there's a count that, they everything's very safe and there's a countdown and they know when they're going to get jerked, but in the moment, from the moment you lift off to the end of the stunt, anything could happen, no matter how precise and careful your being, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up after all of that mayhem, I had to get wired in as well and get pulled out, but they did it at like 1/8 of the speed. I didn't go jerking up. It was more of like like this speed. Oh, like really, really slow, you know. It was like, and then I guess, then they sped it up after the fact. It was really good. That was a fun shoot. And you're in this plane, you have no idea what anything's going to look like at the end when they actually finish the movie. And I thought it turned out pretty good.
Oh yeah, it was, as I said, like, it made me think of the stuff on sci-fi in general. Like, I love sci-fi.
Yeah.
I love how some of the stuff can get kooky and funny and just bizarre. It makes me laugh. So
yeah, exactly.
Oh, this is so cool. It was so much fun to watch. And I was like, and I know somebody in it.
Yeah.
I was like, Jane. I love Dean Jane and Superman, or Lois Superman.
Yeah, Lois and Clark. He was on. I talked to him a little bit about that, and he said that was when you're on a show like that, which was I think that was a syndicated show back in. What was that? The 90s, early 90s that was on, I think.
I believe so.
Yeah, and he was saying, I remember him telling me that they would shoot so many episodes, and they were shooting so constantly. There would be days where they would shoot 20, 24 hours straight pretty often. It was exhausting, but I think I recall him saying it was one of the best jobs he ever had too. So,
well,
yeah,
cool. I think sometimes when you're with a series instead of movies, you kind of have that family mentality, because it's like, even with Supernatural just ending, and they were like on season, was it 17?
Oh, yeah,
and
I know.
Get away from that, even though you want to move on to and see what else you could do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So I enjoyed that movie, but as we were saying before, and especially it's October, so I thought it was perfect because you're into all the horror movies and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I think one was The Gate or something. I haven't seen that one yet. There's a couple I've been meaning to watch, actually, and I just haven't had the chance. Oh, and I watched one of your ones. What was it about?
Yeah. The Gate one is Beyond the Gates, I think, is the one.
Yeah, Beyond the Gate.
Yeah.
There was, let me see. There was I think it was like a short or something. Was it Vimeo? No.
With a what in it?
I'm trying to remember what was in it now.
That's all right.
Oh, You Are a Loved One, I think it was. And it was, the only thing about that one, I think it was slow. I think that was the one I felt like was a bit slow.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the only non-horror ones I've been a part of, which is great. I don't always do horror.
Yeah.
I don't always, as much as I love the genre, I don't always do horror. I've done a bunch of different kinds of projects. Yeah, Beyond the Gates and
Beyond the Gates.
I'm trying to think of
yeah, that was 2016. I still haven't seen that. I wanted to. Oh, there's damn stuff.
I think it's on either Beyond the Gates is streaming somewhere right now. I just can't remember where. I don't know if it's Hulu or
I think it was like Vimeo at one point.
Okay.
It'll tell me on here, actually. If I go here, Beyond the Gates. Oh, IDMB is really good with that.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I know it's about to stream on Shudder in Australia.
IFC Films Unlimited.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because IFC Midnight.
And you could rent or buy it on Prime Video.
Oh, great. There you go. Yeah.
If anybody's interested.
Yeah, perfect. Exactly. Yeah, I know there's a couple of titles I was involved in on the streaming service Shudder right now, which are The Mind's Eye, which is also, we were talking about telekinesis earlier. That's like a telekinesis revenge movie.
Oh, cool.
And then another movie that I produced, but was not in, called Bliss, is on Shudder right now. So that's one that people could check out, which overall, if you like horror and you don't have Shudder, you should get Shudder, because Shudder is a streaming service that's curated by people who know and love horror, and there's a lot of great horror movies on there, classics.
Yeah,
Stuff for everybody.
My sister Dana loves horror, so I've been like, you gotta check. I told her about Shudder. I don't know if she got it yet or not.
Oh, she's got to get it. It's
She's
great.
a fan of that. And I remember one we talked about before, Contracted, was a good favorite.
That was a very successful small film for the size it was. It did very well, and it was the same director as Madison County. On Contracted, I was a co-producer, and I did act in it. I had a supporting role in it as a super creepy guy. Yeah. And but that was fun, and I got to work with a lot of friends on that one. My good friend Najara Townsend, who I think I've done maybe 11 films with now, was on that. I actually think I brought her in on that because we had done a movie before that, and she's a super talented actress who's in actually a new movie called The Stylist that's just starting to play festivals right now. Obviously, the pandemic has prevented festivals from happening, but there are festivals still happening online, right? And my friend Jill just directed a movie called The Stylist that Najara is in that I have not yet seen, but I can't wait to see because she's great in it. But she was the lead in Contracted, and it was just fun to, that movie that was the kind of project where everybody got every favor you can possibly imagine to make it happen because the budget was so low.
Oh, nice.
But the movie, we were rewarded with a movie that seemed to really connect with people. Like I don't think I've been in another indie film, and I really haven't been in any big movies. Like I've just done, my whole directing and acting and producing career. Pretty much everything I've worked on has been anywhere from like a micro budget to a smallish medium sized budget, nothing huge. And Contracted was one of the smaller ones, and it was very rewarding to have it seem to connect with so many people and do so well.
Do you have a favorite out of the horror ones yet, or
of the ones I've been in? Or man, that's tough.
Right?
Yeah.
Looking at your list, I'm like, ooh, there's a lot on here.
Yeah, it's tough because they're all such different experiences. Probably Contract is the one I learned the most on. One of my favorite experiences in terms of being on set and being at the location was a movie called The Mind's Eye, which I brought up earlier as one of the ones on Shudder right now. And it was shot in Rhode Island in the dead of winter in 2015, in February of 2015. And it was it was the harshest winter that Rhode Island had in like 40 years. So we were shooting in blizzards constantly. There were 8-10-foot snow drifts on the side of every road. And while it made the shooting conditions really difficult, it also brought a lot of production value to the movie. Like it really felt like you just can't beat that kind of look, people walking across snowy landscapes constantly. And just the people on that movie were great. It was my first time working with the director, Joe Begas, and he's been a frequent colleague of mine recently and super talented director. And it was my first time working with him and his producing partner, Josh Ethier. And I don't know, there was like the score was done by this guy, Steve Moore, who's in a band I love called Zombie. And he's like, I think the most talented synth composer in the genre world right now. So there's all these great people, Gerner, The Effect, just this amazing conglomeration of actors and people that I always wanted to work with, let alone meet. I mean, it was just cool.
Yeah.
So that was a great experience. It's like so hard to pick like really one movie that I just all around is the best.
As you said, in Madison County, you got to be killed. That was your fun.
Yeah, I mean that's another one. Like I just felt I finally had gotten a role in a horror movie on that one. It was like my first one, and it just felt so neat to be on location in Arkansas shooting a movie, and the locations were so weird on that movie. We shot at this waterfall in the middle of nowhere, and this diner that felt like it was straight out of a Texas Chainsaw movie. I mean, it was just,
creepy.
It felt so cool. Yeah, it just
creepy
felt really
but cool.
Yeah, exactly. Creepy but cool. It just felt cool to be in all those places. I mean, that's one of the most fun things about making these movies is for most of the ones I've done have been location shoots, meaning they haven't been made in LA. I have to go somewhere to do them. So I always get to experience a new place, whether it's Arkansas or Rhode Island or Memphis, or, I mean, I've gotten to see so many different places all over the country,
I have a question from the audience.
Ooh.
What is your favorite horror movie used for inspiration for horror movies you've made?
Oh, that's a good question. I like that. Oh God, I gotta think. Okay. So I've directed a bunch of short films and a couple of features, but the first one that pops in my mind is I made a short film called Feeding Time about 3 or 4 years ago.
And I wasn't in it.
Yeah. And I feel like it's the first short that I really put my back into, even though we had very little money, again, micro budget. But that one definitely, my influences are very much worn on its sleeve. There were, it's essentially a short film about a babysitter who goes to fill in for a friend on a job. And when she shows up at this house to do this babysitting job, she's very quickly starts to discover things don't feel quite right. And it essentially becomes, not to give anything away, but it's like a tiny creature kind of short. And my influences, what was the question? Inspiration. Yeah. I think the two biggest inspirations on that one were, oh God, what's that movie? House of the Devil. There's this indie horror film called House of the Devil that came out about 10 years ago that I would say is probably my favorite, one of, if not my favorite indie horror films that's come out in the last 10 years. I ripped that off big time. I mean, the whole setup of my short. I know. Homage. It was homage. But I totally borrowed the whole. I mean, I did it a little differently in my own way because it's got to move faster. It's a short, and House of the Devil's a feature. But I definitely borrowed that setup from that movie and kind of the look too. I just love the vibe of that movie. Which, if you haven't seen that, immediately go see. Or rent, or I think it's actually, speaking of Shudder, I think it's on Shudder now, but rent House of the Devil because it's such a vibey, it's very low key at first and it's a slow burn, but it has a lot of atmosphere. It was directed by this guy, Ty West. It's really, really great. So that was one. And then the other influence on the short was probably.
He was even in the movie, it shows.
What's that?
It looks like he did a small part in the movie too, Ty West.
Oh, did he?
Yeah,
I'm sure.
Let's see. It has. Oops.
Jocelyn Donahue is the lead, and Greta Gerwig, before she became a super famous director, making Little Women and Lady Bird, which are both awesome movies. She also has a role in House of the Devil.
It looks like it's included with Prime Video too.
Oh, great! So it's on Prime. Definitely, yeah. Definitely watch it. It's great, and that was a huge influence on Feeding Time. And then the other one would probably be Gremlins. Was the other influence on Feeding Time? I think those are my two influences because Gremlins are probably even more so Critters. If you've seen that, because the creatures and
Critters. I don't mind Gremlins, but Critters always.
Yeah, they're bothersome.
The sharp teeth. Ugh.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Tribbles with teeth and
with teeth. Exactly. There you go. That's that's the best analogy I've heard for the Critters. Yeah. But that was a big influence because I wanted the creatures in Feeding Time to have the same sort of nefarious sort of. Just don't get them wet. Yep. I just saw it. That's funny.
That's right, though. You don't want to get them wet.
Yeah, exactly. You don't feed them after midnight. Don't get them wet. But I wanted the creatures to have the same kind of personality as the Gremlins or the Critters, and sort of have a not nefarious. What's the word I'm looking for? Sort of. They're sneaky and kind of,
sly.
They have a little sly personality. Yeah. So those were that. I think that's the first thing that pops in my head when I think of something where I was very influenced by other movies, and it shows.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that short is on. I mean, it's on YouTube. It's easy to find. Feeding time.
Let's see
Okay.
let me see if it says anywhere else it might be. Now I just gotta find it on your list. Where is it?
Yeah, I mean, that one I
Way
think is
down
probably
there, isn't it?
on YouTube on, I believe, the Scream Fest page.
Alright, so
Talk about cool locations, though. One thing, I was looking all over LA for a big, old, creepy house to shoot in, and we found this huge Craftsman house in Pasadena, which is an area that has a lot of big, stately kind of big houses.
mhm.
And it was not only was it a huge, old, dark Craftsman house where my main character could just be walking down long corridors, and you're not sure what's going to pop out of the dark next.
Oh yeah.
But in addition to that, the woman who owned the house, it had all of these. She was a doctor, and she had all these anatomy charts up all over the walls, all over the house. They were just there already. And I was like, well, this is perfect. Yeah, I mean, you didn't have to decorate anything.
That kind of creepy, but it worked. Yeah. It's what you're looking for.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes I love when that happens, when you find the house and you look in.
Yeah,
like,
and it's always desperate. Like, it's so hard when you're on a budget to find a location that's affordable and also looks like what you want.
Yeah.
Or at least you can see that you can make it look like what you want by set dressing it or whatever. But yeah, we were getting nervous about finding a place because we were getting close to the shoot date on that. And we came to that house and I was like, oh my God, this couldn't be better. And in addition to that, the woman who owned the house was so nice. I mean, one of the things, her name was Amy. And I remember one of my fondest memories of that was at the end of the shoot. She left us a cheesecake in the kitchen, and I was like, "This is what? Nobody does this."
That is cool.
The person who owns the location or the location manager is standing there with their arms crossed, like, "When are they going to leave? What are they going to get? Don't break anything. What are they going to screw up?" And this woman like made us a cake, and it was ridiculous. It was that was probably the most copacetic and fun shoot I've ever directed. It was a blast.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I was do you have, well, you probably might have already said it, but do you have a favorite story, like something that happened on set that you're like, that other than the cheesecake and all that,
yeah.
Good cheesecake, homemade cheesecake's the best. Something that just, whenever you think back, you're like, that was awesome and it was hilarious.
Oh wow. Oh gosh. Now that should be something that should be so. What's that?
Like a blooper, I guess, type of thing.
Yeah. That should be something that's so easy to think of. And it's so hard to think of that in the moment because that type of stuff happens all the time. And I'm trying to think. Oh gosh, I'll think of something.
You have so many experiences, has to be there, right?
A blooper. Yeah, I know. Like the last, trying to. No, that's not a good story. I don't want to embarrass anybody. It's like everything you think of is like, the first thing you have to think of is, am I going to embarrass someone by telling this story? Let's see.
You want to embarrass yourself, though, right?
Yeah, I don't mind embarrassing myself. I'm trying to think of. That's what I'm trying to think of is a thing where I could. I remember on. You brought up Madison County. I remember on Madison County when we were shooting my death scene. This is not. There's got to be a better story than this, but I'll do this one.
Okay.
We were shooting my death scene, and the guy playing the killer, he's a stuntman. And basically, the place we were shooting it was next to a riverbank, and there were just all these rocks piled up all around. And my character had to. The killer had a baseball bat, and he swings it at a tree, and he misses me and hits a tree, and the bat splinters. And then I fight with him, which is a huge mistake for my character to even try to fight this guy. He's, just hulking, pig-faced guy. Yeah. Anyway, he throws me on the ground, and we were trying to figure out how I was going to fall and land safely, because there were just these rocks everywhere. And me being a younger, eager actor at the time, I was like, "Oh, I'll just fall on the rocks." He was like, "You're not falling on the rocks. It's not happening." So they moved all these rocks out of the way. Great. And made sort of a softer, muddy spot for me to fall on. But then once I fell, I had to stay in the same position for a long time, because they had to do some makeup on my face and get this prop, this end of a bat to put in my mouth, because basically the killer shoves a bat through my head, like through my mouth and out of the back of my head. Spoiler alert, that's my death in the thing. So anyway,
still should watch it though.
There's more to it. Right. So I'm laying there though, and I can't move, and I start to feel like a weird itching sensation and around like the top of my pants, like right around the seam, not the seam, but the waistline of my pants. It's that, and I was like, I don't want to move for continuity's sake. And there were the bat in my mouth, and there were just all these things where if I moved, I would have screwed up things.
Yeah.
And so I'm laying there, and I just start feeling like the itch kind of turns to a burn and then a pain. I'm like, what is this? And so I start like moving around, and I think someone even said, "What's the matter? You got ants in your made the ants in your pants joke." And I was like, I don't know, I just feel weird. Well, sure enough, we finally like get the thing done, and I like spring up. I'm like, bah, and there were ants in my pants, like a whole horde of ants.
Were they the red ones?
I don't think they were, but whatever they were bitey. They weren't red. They were like a dark reddish black color. And they were definitely, they didn't. Ants. Yeah, I wasn't on fire. Like it didn't feel like what a fire ant feels like. It was just more like somewhere between that and like a mild jellyfish sting. But it was enough that laying there became immensely unbearable. Yeah. It was.
I would have probably shot up sooner, but that would be just me, because I'd be like, I think something bit me.
Yeah. I couldn't. Didn't want to screw things up. I was too nervous about messing things up.
Well, that makes you a good actor.
Thanks. Yeah. I wish I could think of a better story than that, though. But that's I don't know why that's the first one that popped in my head.
So sometimes the first ones are the ones that are more memorable.
Yeah.
Are you working on anything right now? Or a couple of things?
Well, lately, the pandemic has kind of stopped production on everything. Of course, everyone's got to stay safe, and it's just too risky to have a bunch of people on set together. Although things are starting to happen again. There are some shows that have started shooting and some movies that have started shooting, and they've kind of come up with a protocol for COVID. Essentially, your entire cast and crew has to stay isolated for the entire shoot, and you got to get COVID tested 3 times a week, which makes total sense. So things are starting to happen again, and I am attached to a movie as an actor that hopefully will shoot before the end of the year if those protocols can be met and the union can be satisfied and we can get insurance and all that stuff.
Is it another horror? Or is
Yeah, maybe I can't say too much about it, but I'd say it's a little more. I promised the director I wouldn't say anything about it anywhere, but it's more of a probably more sci-fi than horror. This one, but it definitely has horror elements.
I do love sci-fi.
It's somewhere in between, I would say, and
that's cool.
Yeah. And then, lately I've been, just doing editing work for different various shows to pay the bills. And, but there's a bunch of things cooking. I have another project that I co-wrote with the last movie I co-directed with my buddy Mike, which was called Dementia Part 2, which played a bunch of festivals, and hopefully we'll have an announcement about soon for a release.
I'll keep
But
my eyes and ears out.
yeah, thanks. Should
Because
be a
I
fun,
know
but
I
we have
always check
another.
your IMDb just
Oh,
to see
thank
if
you.
you come out and
Yeah.
see if anything looks good. Because, well, as I said, I've been wanting to see the Gate one.
Beyond the
Yeah,
Gates. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a
beyond.
good one. It's some really
And
cool things about that one. I got to work with my buddy Graham Skipper again, who has been in a bunch of horror films as well, and played Herbert West in Reanimator the musical. And then my buddy Chase was in that, and then the legendary Barbara Crampton from the original Reanimator and From Beyond and all those great Stuart Gordon movies. She's also in Beyond the Gates. She plays
sweet.
um, the woman in the game who's instructing everyone what to do. Which makes no sense since I haven't explained what the movie is, but just watch it.
Yeah, watch it.
Yeah,
You could find
it's fun.
trailers and stuff on his IMDb too.
Yeah, thank you. It's a fun sort of retro throwback kind of movie with very retro colors and retro special effects, all practical, cool.
Sometimes those are the best, especially for horror. Because if you put too much, or like ghosts and things, you need the CG or whatever. But if you put too much with other stuff, you kind of lose that haunting mentality.
I agree. I think practical is always better. I mean, you can,
especially with houses that already look haunted. You don't really need to do much more.
No, I think people lean on it too much when they're making movies. Anytime I'm on a set just as an actor, most of the stuff I make, I try to go all practical. But whenever I'm on a set as an actor and I hear someone say, we'll fix it in post, just keep going, just do it this way. I'm like, oh no, what's it going to look like? Unless it's something like Airplane versus Volcano or Damn Sharks, where that's the whole point. It's supposed to be that kind of thing.
You need that.
Do you have any, I know you don't, you are selective in your horror watching, but do you have anything you're planning on watching over the season here, the Halloween season?
I love Halloween. Like the movies I watch a lot during Halloween are some of the classic. Like some of them are not all horror either. Like Hocus Pocus, always gonna be there.
The Mick Garris classic. I love Hocus Pocus.
Yes. I don't remember if you remember this one. It was by Disney. It was Mr. Boogedy and the Bride of Boogedy.
Oh, I remember.
Mr. Yes, another one. It's hard to find people who do. I
remember it.
Bride of Boogedy was my favorite though, but they were.
Which one? Bride? Did you say Bride?
The Bride of Boogedy, the second one.
I like Bride of Boogedy. I know as a kid, those were. Now I haven't watched those in years, and I've been wanting to revisit them. Those were critical to me as a kid. I loved them, and I loved Richard Mazer was the dad, and they were just scary enough. Like they're a good sort of entry gateway.
Yeah, because it had that feel to it, but it wasn't too much.
Yeah. Remember what? Yeah, what was Richard Mazer? His character had some kind of phrase in that. I think it was like he would go,
"Just kidding."
Yeah, just kidding, or something city, or something.
Yeah. I forgot the Gag City. It was Gag City.
Gag City.
Yeah, who he worked for. And then when he got possessed, he'd be boogity boogity boo. Just kidding. That was my favorite. That always entered my head.
Yeah, Gag City. That's what it was. I got in so much trouble one time as a kid because I was in the grocery store with my mom. I literally just remembered this, and I was not I was a very good kid usually, but I shoplifted a couple of pixie sticks out of a bag of pixie sticks in the store. The candy, the powder. I don't even know if they make those anymore, but the powder. And we left the store, and my mom was like, "What are you hiding? Are you hiding something in your pocket?" And I just watched one of the Boogedy movies, and I pulled it out of my pocket, and I went, "Straw City." And my mom was furious. And she made me go back in the store and go up to the store manager and explain what I had done, which is the right thing for a mom to do. She did the right thing. I was so ashamed, and I never shoplifted again, I don't think. But I was totally imitating Richard Mazer in the Boogedy movies.
I know, I love it. And then The Worst Witch, as I was saying before.
Yeah.
I love that one. Legend. To me, Legend could be in that area.
Oh, totally, yeah.
Yeah.
I like the Tim Curry.
Frighteners. Michael J. Fox.
Frighteners, yeah.
Love that one. Now that one's a bit more spookier than the others, but I love
there's some. It's a nice
it's intense.
balance.
Yeah.
It's intense though. Yeah, there's a good balance of scares and comedy, and like the ghosts are some good comic relief.
Oh yeah.
And then you've got Jeffrey Combs is amazing in that. He's good comic relief as the hemorrhoid detective.
I was like, and when he showed all his scars, I was like, "You're proud of that?" I was like, I would be like, so like, no.
No. And pre-Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson directing that movie, so that's cool.
And with the Boogedy, Mr. Boogedy and Bride of Boogedy, I do own it as streaming movies. I had to get them when I saw them. What I'm trying to think. Of course, Ghostbusters. You can't go wrong with Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters is great.
I can't wait for the third one. I'm like, I can't believe it's postponed. I've been looking forward to it.
It sucks. I'm really looking forward to that too. It's too bad it was postponed.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to think of any other movie. Like, I do like vampire movies. I'm a vampire and werewolf fan. Zombies has to be like World War Z. I enjoyed. I like, but there's some zombie movies that I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
Like, I never really got into The Walking Dead like others did.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag for me. I think, I mean, I know everyone says zombies have been done to death, and I sort of agree with that, but I think nothing's really done to death. Like, someone can always come up with a new and inventive way to do whatever subgenre of horror, whether it's zombie or slasher or whatever. But
Netflix has that one with Drew Barrymore. My best friend loves that, and iZombie she loves. I haven't really gotten into those. Because as I said, I'm very particular with zombies, and I'm very like wary of them too. Yeah. I guess because I don't like people eating people. Either way, I'm like, don't eat me.
Not a fan of
I'm not a cannibal person. But vampires, I'm more of, because I think they're sexy and seductive if they're done right. Interview with the Vampire. There was
what about like a hard-hitting vampire, like 30 Days of Night? Are you into that, or is that?
I don't think I've seen that one yet.
Okay, that was what's that?
Is there any others you could say kind of like it?
Yeah, let me think. Well, I mean, there's Francis Ford Coppola's. There's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
I like that.
Yeah, that's a good one. I love the opening of that movie. I mean, it's a great movie, but all the almost like shadow puppet looking opening stuff is really cool in that. And then what else is there? I mean,
yes, I do love Underworld.
Underworld.
The series of movies, I do love Underworld.
Oh wait, what's this about Bill Murray? Something to get Bill Murray to return.
Something to get Bill Murray to return. The third Ghostbusters will be decent.
Hopefully. Yeah, I mean, it looks decent. It's a good, like,
it looks really good.
I think it'll be decent. It looks good.
I honestly, when I thought if they ever brought Ghostbusters back, I always said it should be the kids, like their kids taking over, or something brings them back into it. And this is more like that, even though I think it's more like the kids and grandkids. But still, it's kind of where I was thinking. Like, I dreamt once that they had kids and another Ghostbusters happened. It was years ago. So when the all-female cast one came out, I thought it was fun, but I thought it shouldn't have been Ghostbusters. It could have been its own thing. The way they did it, even though it was like they're rebooting the whole Ghostbusters, and I just couldn't see that happening. Sorry.
Oh yeah, and Sarge says, it's the plot is Egon's. Yeah, it's Egon's family, right? Yeah. Yeah,
I think so. Like his kid and grandkid, and they didn't know he was a Ghostbuster.
Kind of hard to. I mean, they are bound to have known. Like it was. That's the funny. Thing I'm wondering how they're gonna get around is that was such a big event in the first movie, and you see the news footage. I mean, I guess what they're trying to say in that preview is that in this day and age, people forget things so quickly, and history is tended to not mean as much anymore, which I actually think that is a pretty neat idea.
Yeah.
I think that is a good idea if it's done right, but I'll be curious to see how that's done. Who doesn't love Paul Rudd? Paul Rudd's in it.
I know. I'm like, this is gonna
I'll
be
watch
fun.
it.
I love his work.
Yeah.
Ant-Man, he's perfect as Ant-Man too. I love him as Ant-Man.
He really is. Sarge says,
Yeah,
sad no Rick Moranis in the third one, though. I think he
yeah.
was still
I
hurt.
thought
You
the
know
same.
what?
Now he's out of retirement.
I have a theory.
He might be in the first one.
Sarge 211. I have a theory. He will be in it. I think they're just not telling us. I think
It's
that's
possible.
I think it's possible
Like,
he will make an appearance.
Like to be like, oh, there's going to be a fourth, because Ghostbusters keeps going and going. Yeah. Family line,
Speaking of Speaking of Rick Moranis, I'm a huge Rick Moranis fan. I think he was the funniest thing about SCTV back in the day, and I love Little Shop of Horrors. Did you see that he was like randomly punched on the street recently?
New York.
Yeah, horrible. Who would? I mean, I'm sure it was such a random attack. They probably didn't even know it was Rick Moranis, but so horrible. Who would punch Rick Moranis? I just no good.
Everybody was up in arms about that. Even Ryan Reynolds was like,
"No,
whoever did that, nope."
Yeah, catch that person. That is not acceptable. Rick Moranis is
not at all. I agree on that, because Rick Moranis is a sweetheart, and
he's a sweetheart and a national treasure, and he should not be punched.
Respect him.
So far as we know, for all we can know, we can discover tomorrow that he has some secrets or something in his basement. But
he has been in retirement for a long time now.
That's true. What's he been doing?
No. All I know is he went in retirement to be more with his kids, more hands-on, which I understand, especially when you're so big. You get to the point where all you do is these shows like Honey, I Shrunk the Kid, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, all that.
Yeah.
And then on top of Ghostbusters and this and that, it probably got too much. And he was just like, I haven't seen my family in years. I want to be there.
I think that's what it was. And I think his wife, I don't remember what it was. She either had cancer or I know his wife passed away. And basically he said, I have to be with my kids. I can't work anymore. So, that's the sign of somebody I think is a noble, good person.
Me too.
So don't punch him. Right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think she did.
Cancer. It does cancer or something. Yeah, it was one of those.
And I agree, Sarge, it would be the best kept secret. It really would. It'd be awesome.
Would be. Like at the very, as how they do the very end now with credits going on to the next, kind of hint. That'd be cool. If
the greatest thing would be, I just had this thought, it would be so cool since obviously, unfortunately, the great Harold Ramis is no longer with us and can't play Egon. The other guys are coming back. How great would it be if Moranis was in it and Louis Tully got to step into got to strap on the proton pack and fight alongside them with the kids and the grown-ups.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
One big busting force. That would be pretty rad. I'd be into that.
I wonder if Slimer's going to be in this one.
I think yes. I think it's bound to happen.
Yeah, can't go wrong. Slimer is like a part of the team in a weird way.
Yeah, if Janine Melnitz is in this, Slimer's in this.
Yes, Slimer.
No question.
But yeah, the trailer looks really good. So I mean, it knocked my husband out when I found out it was postponed. I was like, no. I felt like I was doing that slow. You can't believe it. I was like itching for it. I was like, okay, one more month, and then all of a sudden, oh no, we're postponing.
I know. There's so many things. Like I was really looking forward to that, and I'm a huge fan of the Halloween franchise. By the way, Sarge said he's a staple of the series. 100% he is.
Yes, he is.
But I'm a huge fan of the Halloween franchise as well, and the fact that they were they had to postpone the next Halloween movie. I was like, oh no, I just want to see it.
Yeah, there's so many good
whether or not it's good. I will. That's like the one that franchise is my one weak spot. Like I can't. No matter how bad those movies get, I always go see them. I love the Halloween franchise.
They're the cheesy horror movies now. That's what they're known for. But those are sometimes better than some of the ones that just go into gore.
Yeah, I mean, I was never.
That was gore, but now I'm like, no, it's far worse now. Yeah,
like I think sometimes it is far worse. I don't mind gore if it's, again, used the right
Yeah, yeah,
way. Like, I'm
but
not a
if
big fan of the sort of mid 2000s torture porn kind of movie. Like, I was never a huge fan of Hostel, or I don't know. I just, even though those movies have some like interesting thematic material buried in them, I wasn't a big fan
yeah.
of like that sort of violence. But I don't mind gore. Like, one of the movies I produced last year was actually a vampire movie.
Uh,
Yeah,
like how
that's a good true. Sarge just said like how Saw movies are. That's so true. Like, Saw was never
I
a
couldn't
huge, big one for
I
me. I
can't
wasn't a
do
huge fan of
it.
that
My
franchise.
sister loves them. I just no, I couldn't do it.
Yeah,
It's like
but
Purge. I've watched it before, but it's still not that. It's still it bothers me, I guess, because
yeah,
if that ever happened, that's so wrong in so many levels, you know.
right. Yeah,
So
yeah. I just like those guys who made the first Saw and then wrote and produced a lot of the other ones. James Wan and Lee Winnell, like they've gone on to make just remarkable horror movies, like the Conjuring movies. And Lee Winnell made this movie
oh
called
yeah,
Upgrade, and he just did the new Invisible Man. Like, those guys are super talented, and I think some of the smartest. They're some of the smartest
yeah.
guys making
The
horror movies
new
right now. But Saw,
oh,
it's like the one. It's like the one thing they've made that I'm like, it's not really my thing.
and what are your feelings on the Final Destination movies?
Oh, I love them. I think those are great. I think they're so like they're really. I was having
They're
this
unique.
conversation with someone the other day about like,
Mhm,
okay, the big horror franchises that aren't
mhm,
Halloween or Friday the 13th, like which ones actually have all good installment? Like, there isn't really a bad
mhm.
installment. Like, they're at least good. And
Yeah,
the two that we really could come up with were Child's Play, which, as silly as some of those get, the Chucky
mhm,
movies, they're
yeah,
none of them are really bad. They're all pretty like well made. And the other ones are the Final Destination movies. Like, they're all so fun. Like, as ridiculous as some of the Rube Goldberg's, the sort of trap, like the
yeah,
one thing leading to another sort of deaths are, they're so fun. Like, I love
mhm,
how they make you think they're headed in one direction and then something else happens. Like the gymnast's death
yeah,
in, I guess, was it five? It's either 4 or 5. I think it's 5. That's amazing. Like, they're so like, I love those movies. And I know the writer of the first one, and
hmm,
I've gotten to talk to him about his, that movie and his involvement in them, and I just think like he and those guys, Craig and those guys who make those movies, are so creative. I love those movies.
mhm.
And the bridge scene in the fifth one is so great. It's so amazing. It's
Now
like to coordinate something like that. Yeah.
yeah, I do admit I like the Scream movies because they also kinda had that like, you didn't know who it was, and you thought you did, and you didn't, and also
Oh
on
yeah.
top of that, it was like there was the laws of the rules of a horror movie that they seem to have followed. I think the last one, though, kinda went off kilter, but
Hmm.
it was like, okay, and none of them really followed the rules anyway, so
Yeah. I feel like the f- yeah that's kind of starting with the third one. They started. I mean, I think they even had a line in the third one,
Mhm.
like, oh, in the second sequel, in the third one, all bets are off. There are no rules or whatever. And
Yeah,
yeah, I like the Scream movies. I think the fourth one, I kind of like them all. The third one
yeah,
to me is the weakest, but
mhm,
I think my favorite actually is probably the second one, when they were there at college. But um, the fourth one's just sort of, yeah, it kind of went on a little long in the end. Like, it's kind of just kept going. And
mhm.
as cool as the final scene was in the hospital, it was like, this is really dragging out.
Yeah,
But they're
it
making
is.
another one of those. They're making the fifth
Oh,
one
yeah.
now.
I heard
Radio
about that,
Silence.
and I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure out what they're gonna do.
Who knows? They all signed on though. Nev Campbell officially signed on,
Mhm.
and David
Yeah.
Arquette and Courtney Cox. So they got everybody back, and some new people like Jack Quaid's going to be in it. So it's a good cast.
Yeah, it's rare when you could get everybody back at times, though, so when
It
you're able,
is.
it's like, "Oh, this is gonna be good." So,
Yeah.
and then,
Yeah.
another one that I enjoyed, but then it like, the further on it got, it kinda did a I Know What You Did Last Summer, that one.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Those
yeah,
are good too. I like those.
yeah. I like the first one. I don't think
Yeah.
they hold a candle to Scream, but I like the first
Yeah, they
one.
don't hold the candle to Scream, but the first one
Yeah,
I liked, and then
I
as I
did.
said, it kinda got a little you know, who knew where it
Yeah,
was going at that rate? It's
yeah. The
like, "Oh,
twists in the
they're
second one.
mother." I was like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, the twists in the second one were really hard to swallow, like
Mhm.
the radio station thing, and but the first I Know What You Did Last Summer was pretty good, and I like I can't think of her name, the lead actress in it,
Wait, hold on.
Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Yeah.
Um, just had a huge crush on her when I was
Oh,
a
I love that
kid. Yeah.
too, and she
Hmm.
that is I mean, that is a series that is like that kinda ooh feeling. Like
Yeah.
that there's certain series that you wanna watch during October more than any time, that would be one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
having
the
grown up, I grew up where I grew up in Virginia was close to the coast, and we were in North Carolina. Obviously, we weren't far from where those movies take place.
Yeah.
Well, not the second one. The first one takes place in, I think, what's supposed to be Wilmington, North Carolina. So I think they shot some of it there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of neat. I just love in the beginning of I Know What You Did Last Summer, though. There's that super high helicopter shot, that wide shot of that car going up
Mhm.
the coastline on the mountains, and it's like that's not North Carolina. That doesn't
Yeah.
nowhere in North Carolina looks like that, but it looks cool.
Yeah.
What did Sarge say? The last two, oh, we're talking about Curse of Chucky and Cult were better than Bride or
Bride of
uh, I
Conspiracy.
agree. I like the going back to more
Mhm.
suspenseful Chucky. I agree. I really liked Curse.
I couldn't watch Chucky. I
No.
tried. I tried, but then all of a sudden I'm looking at especially I was younger at the time when they first came out, I started looking at dolls like they were gonna get me.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll do that. It'll do
And it's
that.
like, what is it? Puppet Master kinda has that same effect. You know, if
Hmm.
you try to watch that, you're
Yeah.
like, don't wanna be
Hmm.
around dolls or anything or
No.
puppets.
No.
I
Yeah.
once when I lived in New Jersey before I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina,
Mm.
um, my parents got me, um, what is it? Uh, the Marx brother, the one with the mustache,
Oh, Groucho.
Groucho Marx. Mhm. I had a puppet of him hanging in my bedroom. And, like, I tried not to think about it, but some days, like, I swear when I woke up at night, I swear it was watching me or something.
Sure.
It was
Yeah.
pretty cool, but it was also creepy.
Yeah. The last thing you want is wide-eyed Groucho watching you in the dark. That sounds
Yeah,
so creepy.
and
Yeah.
I think my parents I'm trying to figure out who gave it to me. I think it was my parents, but
Mm.
I can't remember offhand now that how I got it, when. I remember I always had it hanging near the window in my bedroom, and certain, like, if a light hit it a certain way or if it's total darkness,
Yeah.
it just like, I'll wake up, I swear I heard something, and I'd turn and look at that and go under the covers. I'd be like, "Maybe that's" yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's funny, every once in a while, there's something that most kids find appealing or happy as a kid
Yeah.
that you find threatening.
Mhm.
Excuse me, threatening. One of the thing for me, was not Groucho Marx, but it was as much as I liked the movie, I found E.T. to be pretty creepy as a kid.
Oh my god.
I would have nightmares occasionally of E.T. staring at me through the window, and
Well,
I hmm,
I always loved Groucho Marx, the character, it's just the puppet I didn't like. But with in
right,
regards to
right.
E.T., that was like, we did a podcast about the first movie you ever saw in theaters. That
Mhm.
was mine. I
Oh, was
was
it?
I
That's cool.
was huge fan. I even had one of the blow up ETs that I'd pretend to feed. And
Oh, wow,
so
I forgot
I
about
was
those.
the opposite of you. I was all about ET, and I
Yeah,
have a picture
yeah.
of myself. I keep telling everybody, once I find that photo, I'm gonna post it on Fusion Pop or Facebook Fusion Pop because it's me with my ET feeding him a or pretending to feed him a sandwich. And my mom said I brought him everywhere, like I would drag him around.
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Really? Okay." Like, the only way I remembered is the pictures. I'm like, "Oh." 'Cause, after a certain age, you don't remember
Oh,
everything as vividly. I still have memories of certain things, like,
sure.
my Cabbage Patch doll, I remember. I had one of those small, 101 Dalmatian puppy.
Uh-huh.
My mom got upset with me once and threw it in the trash, and I digged it out later.
Yeah. Well, hey, you
And then
gotta stay
sprayed it
puppy.
with stuff to get the smell. I was
Yeah.
a kid. That was, like, one of my favorite toys,
Yeah.
you know?
It's like the right thing to do. You gotta
Yeah.
spray it.
I was like, "Wait till she goes to sleep. Sneak out.
Yeah.
Go get it."
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but, yeah, it was, like, some I don't remember, but photos, kinda make me go, "Oh, yeah."
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah,
remember
you
why
got me.
I don't know why I don't remember it as vividly, but I guess that was there.
Right. Yeah, I'm trying to think of my earliest cinema experience, like my earliest movie going experience was I remember images from Return of the Jedi, and because my parents took me to see that, even though I was only 3 when that came out, I think, but I remember the speeder chase being really scary to me through the woods. I remember seeing that on screen, and then I somehow at a really young age convinced my parents to take me to movies that were not appropriate for someone my age. And
Wow.
I remember seeing my dad took me to see Beverly Hills Cop, and I couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 when that came out. And then I also convinced my mom to let me watch Jaws and Halloween, the
So
original.
you were an early horror movie person. You
Yeah,
got into it early.
yeah. For some reason, horror movies didn't really scare me much as a kid. The ones that scared me more were like revenge movie. Like, so my my mom had really good taste. My parents were divorced, and my mom had really good taste in
Mhm,
movies. And she would rent like classy horror movies like
mhm,
Halloween or Alien or Creature from the Black Lagoon. Like old or new, they were well
mm.
told stories. And as soon as my dad figured out he could sit me in front of a TV and put on something like that, he could rent anything. But he had no perception of what was good and bad. So he would rent these grade B, really schlocky rip-off movies. Like there was one that was like an alien rip-off called Creature that was so gory. But none of them bothered me except one time my dad rented this movie that was so inappropriate. Is this serial killer movie starring Charles Bronson called 10 to Midnight. And I couldn't have been more than 6 or 7 years old. And this movie is balls to the wall, like violent. And it's like, the killer in it like kills people in the nude. And it's like, it has the scariest. Oh, it's so
Weird.
exploitive and scary.
Yeah.
And that one definitely got to me because I remember trying to sleep after that movie, and I was like calling
No.
out my parents. I was like, they knew they had crossed a line with 10 to Midnight.
Yeah.
And then I actually weirdly watched that again recently because they just released a new transfer of it on Blu-ray, and I watched it, and I was like, well, this is not a very good movie, but I can see why it scared me. It's just
Mhm.
really violent and gross.
My sister Diana, who is into horror, her younger son Destin, my
Mhm.
nephew, he started, I think, 6 or 7, but he's into horror movies
Oh
and
boy.
horror. Like, he loves horror stuff. And I went to a con where we had, I don't know if I ever told you, my husband and I are in Starfleet International Fan Association. We have our own ship called
Oh,
USS
right.
Serenity, and we have people on our ship, but we go to cons where we have a table and
Mhm.
we help promote it. And, and we went to,
That's awesome.
I think it was Greensboro or Charlotte. No, it was Greensboro.
Mhm.
And this writer, not Santa Claus. What's the evil Santa Claus again?
Silent Night, Deadly Night.
No, no. Well, that movie had him in it.
Oh, Krampus. You're talking about Krampus.
Krampus, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
There's one did The Night Before Krampus,
That's cool.
and
Gross.
I got him that, and it was signed by the author, and he loved it. So with him, it's like because he's still not into the major horror
Yeah.
yet, the one
Mhm.
that's too much for him. but he's into a bit good of it. So I have to
Mhm.
make sure, okay, what should I get him for Christmas? You know?
Yeah, check in with the parent, gauge it, check in with the
Yeah.
yeah, make sure
I
it's
have to
not
ask my sister, I'd be like, "Okay, what is he able to watch? What does
yeah,
he like?"
where's the line drawn? Yeah.
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 So,
That's a good idea.
but you could already tell he's into that.
Yeah.
So, you know that, like me, I was a sci-fi fantasy geek, still am, among other stuff, and my sister Diana was to horror. My sister Elise is more, I don't know. She's a mix of stuff, but I think
Mhm.
she's more like, Gilmore Girls,
Mhm.
that type of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
you could
that
tell how
show
different we are just by what we watch
what
at
you watch,
times.
yeah, right,
Yeah.
yeah,
We
yeah.
have some like, we have some things we watch that we both like, my younger sister Lisa and I love Supernatural.
Oh, great, yeah.
You can't go wrong with that.
No, no, that's a good show. It was like that decade's X-Files. It was like the next thing, you know? The same producers here. I think Kim Manners did both.
Mhm. Yeah, and
Yeah, it's
then,
a good show.
my sister Diana will watch. She also likes some Disney and fun stuff too that we grew up on. Like, we
Mhm.
were remembering, like, My Little Pony, the movie,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
the
remember
old
that.
one before the new ponies came out, and we
Yeah.
loved it. It's just, the Christmas movie we all love is Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas. It's
Whoa.
Yeah, it's
That was
old and a classic, and not everybody knows about it, but
uh,
that we used to watch that every year on Christmas Eve with the family, and I still love watching it. And I
that's
finally
cool. That's a
got
good tradition. I
yeah, I
like that.
finally got my husband John to watch it. He never saw it before. So,
Oh, that's
but I
great.
mean, it's so cute. It's one of those kinda fun, wholesome movies with the Muppets, like,
Yeah, well, I love
except
Muppet.
Piggy and them weren't there. But yeah, so I mean, like we all have our individuality and all that.
Yeah.
But in horror, like I said, with horror, I'm just very picky about stuff. More suspense thrillers, and it has to catch my attention.
Mhm.
Now, I have to admit, Sharknado, I watched those. At least I only watched them once, but because it's so funny. I mean, it's one of those where it's just crazy, but
Yeah.
funny, you know?
Yeah, they're super goofy
Mhm.
and over the top. Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
feel like I can understand the appeal of them in, like, things like Dam
Mhm.
Sharks or Airplane versus Volcano.
Yeah.
Um, I think it takes definitely, like, an assured kind of director and an assured hand to get that tone right, though, because when someone's
Yeah.
winking too hard, it can get, like it's
Oh,
not
yeah,
you
there's
know?
some on Sci-Fi I've watched, and I was like,
Yeah,
"What?"
this isn't yeah, right. Yeah, same, same.
But there's some I watch, and I'm like, "Oh, this is just fun."
Yeah, yeah.
But disaster movies are good too. Those are
Which
some of the
ones?
disaster movies,
Oh, yeah. I love a good
like
disaster movie.
like tornadoes, hurricanes, and all that. Like,
Yeah. I just
Sci-Fi has a bunch.
rewatched, I had sort of a friend group, Zoom movie watch recently, and we watched, Twister, which I hadn't seen in,
Love Twister.
over a decade, and it's great. I miss Bill
Mhm.
Paxton, he's so good in that.
Oh,
Great
yeah. Helen Hunt was too, and it's like,
yeah.
"Cow,
Yeah,
another cow." No, that's the same one.
yeah, and someone who I hadn't thought about in a while and was great in it, and you sort of, uh, forget that she's there, is Jamie Gertz, the wife character, is also great in it. She has the sort
Oh,
of
yeah.
thankless role of the
The
frightened wife
psychiatrist.
who's along for the ride.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, I want to go back and watch more Jamie Gertz movies. Talk about someone else who I had a crush on.
Uh,
I did like
Lost
Quicksilver,
Boys.
Lost Boys. Oh, so
Love
great.
Lost Boys.
She's great
Trying
in
to think,
that. Less Than
a lot
Zero.
of good 80s movies.
Yeah, yeah. She's
80s and early 90s, mostly you saw her. I
hmm
haven't seen her much recently offhand, though, now that I think about it.
yeah. I haven't seen her in anything in a while. I'm sure she's working, but I just
Mhm.
haven't seen her.
You never know. Like, she could be I think I saw her in not a Hallmark movie, but it was not like was it Lifetime? Maybe
Mm.
a Lifetime like, it was one of those Christmas ones. I saw her in once,
Okay. Yeah.
and this was years ago, but
Yeah.
more recent stuff, haven't heard. I'd have to look her up to see if she's gonna do anything. And
Yeah,
that's the
same.
cool thing about IMDb. You could look it
It's all
up.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether it's right or not, it's there.
Yeah, true. Sometimes you look and be like, okay,
Yeah.
what's this?
Yeah, it's mostly accurate. It's kind of like Wikipedia, though. It's everyone,
Yeah,
it's a ever-changing
true.
database. So, yeah.
But yeah, as I said, I at least if I want to see what you're up to, I could go there.
Yeah. I think it's pretty accurate. There's another actor who I share the same name with. Well, I mean, not that it wasn't
Matt
planned that way.
Mercer, the voice actor.
The voice
Yes.
actor, yeah. And
So when I did,
occasionally we get each other's credits on IMDb or get each other's emails or whatever. So we always are changing, having to put in changes on there, or I have to send him his email, or he sends me a thing, and like, there's occasionally some confusion there. But luckily, he's a thoughtful and nice gentleman, so we just sort of exchange things.
I was wondering about that actually, because when I first was trying to look you up, I was like, I can't find him. But then when I just looked up Madison County, it brings you up, or do it a certain way, and it always pops up Matthew Mercer first, and then Matt Mercer.
He's become a huge star because of
his voice acting, Fortnite, and all that stuff. Yeah, and
his voice acting and Critical Role, like he's got. I mean, there's a huge fan base for that.
So on TikTok and on Instagram, when I was letting people know, hey, come see this, I was like, and it's this Matt Mercer, and I did it like a green screen with your IMDb behind me, and I was like,
and everyone went, "Oh, no,
you're good."
Like, oh, that's not the one we thought it was going to be.
This might get you noticed, though. People will be like, "What Matt Mercer?" There's another
next time.
Matt
If we do this again, I'll have him come on. I'll ask him to come on with me. And then
that'll be awesome.
Yeah, I'll be like, hey, do the show with me. We'll just confuse everybody. We actually got cast. There was a producer on this movie that we both had bit roles in one time, and the producer thought it would be really funny to cast us both, and it just made things even more confusing. So
yeah, that'd be cool.
Sorry, I interrupted you. Yeah.
No, you're fine. No, I would love that, because that would be hilarious to see what happens.
Yeah. That'd be funny.
And hear you guys' stories about people mixing you up.
Yeah, they're probably pretty bland. It's like, did you get this email? Yeah, here.
There you go.
I think this is for you. Yeah.
But I'm glad you're still working on stuff, even though the pandemic has slowed things down, which sucks.
Yeah.
But
well,
it's happened to everyone. I know that. At least I know, at least with this, it's like you could do it at home, so it helps.
Yeah, right. These things we can do at home, and
I noticed a lot of people are actually making like online movies, like from one person in another direction, the other. Like it's interesting to see.
Yeah, there's an original movie, again, not to sound like a broken record, but it's on Shudder right now. I sound like a spokesperson for Shudder right now. I should tell Sam Zimmerman that it is. But there's another movie, an original movie that they just put up about a month ago called Host, and it's a pandemic movie that takes place in the world of we live in now. And they're on a Zoom, and they do a seance on Zoom, and it's actually really. I finally watched it the other night, and it's actually really good for a movie on Zoom. I
wonder if it's anywhere else. Let me see.
I think it's just on Shudder right now, but I could be wrong. But you can get that free week. There's a free week trial for Shudder. Get that free week. Sign up. I really sound like a pitch person for Shudder
now. What year did it come out?
This year. It's called Host.
Just Host. Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm going to see.
2020. Rob Savage is the director.
Found it.
Starring Haley Bishop.
Haley Bishop, Gemma Moore, Radina Dodova, and Louise Webb, and Leonard are in it. And
Salem Baxter as Salen. Oops, that's the wrong. I lost you. Where are you? There we go. Yeah.
Here.
Well, this was a blast. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I always like to see what you're up to anyway.
Yeah,
Like
well,
to let
thanks.
other people know.
Yeah, I'm glad to know that you're staying busy as well, and you've got this
Yeah.
station and this show now. We were
Mm,
talking about that a little before the show, and it's cool that you're doing this.
yeah.
This is really, really cool.
I love doing stuff like this, and I was like, with the pandemic, it kind of, hard getting another job. I'm like, you know what? I would really like to start my own radio station. This is something I've been wanting to do and
Yeah.
finally get
Mhm.
the opportunity to do. And right now, of course, it's not paying, but right now I'm like, I'm gonna get it out there. Once numbers go up, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Of course. Yeah. Eventually, I think that's the way it works is you put it out there
mhm.
and keep it going and try to get guests, and then eventually the numbers get high enough that you can get sponsors and it just grows,
Yep.
It's the way to do it.
Who knows? Maybe Shutter will become a sponsor for you and me.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. I
Or
really sound like some sort of
here.
weird pitch person for Shutter.
No. I mean, honestly, for people who love horror and want just horror, that's
Yeah.
the perfect place to
It's
go 'cause
it's the place to go, and there's a wide variety of stuff on there. It's not all just super gory or super
mhm.
out there. There's some great documentaries on there. It's a very um, diverse array of programming. I still sound like I'm pitching it. Anyway.
It's okay, that just means you enjoy
Yeah,
it. When you enjoy something, you wanna pitch it.
right. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
But it was great having you. I mean, I'm
Yeah, thank
excited.
you.
And of course, once the pandemic is up and you get back out there, definitely we'll hit back up and see what's going on.
I would love that. That'd be great. Thank you.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And thank you everybody who's listening. As you guys know, this is presented and produced by Fusion Radio, myself. And also we had Matt Mercer come join us. And yes, go watch his movies. They're amazing. Go check out the ones he recommended, like The House of the Devil.
Yeah, so good. You'll love it.
And Host, yeah. And of course, keep checking back because when he comes back, we'll find out even more horror movies probably later.
And I'll have a better blooper story.
I'd probably write it down for a memory for later.
Yeah.
I want to thank Matt Mercer for coming. Thank you. And it's
Thank
always
you.
great catching up with a friend from high school.
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, it's always a pleasure. It was a blast. It's been way too long.
Yes. And thank you, audience, for your questions too, especially Sarge.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarge. And as I said, I hope everything else goes well, and hopefully the pandemic will be over soon. Well, we don't know, but hopefully sooner than later, right?
Yeah. Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully that vaccine comes soon because there's not much to do until then. Yeah.
But it was good talking to you again.
Good talking to you.
Have a good one, Matt. Thank
Thanks.
you.
You too. All right. Take care.